Hi, Chief. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
Happy that you were able to make some time
My pleasure.
to show up today. And
This is great.
the last episode that I had with Chief with Wes Smith, the Reverend Wes Smith, Serge was not on that particular show, and
I noticed
people contacted me after the fact, and they were a little dismayed that he wasn't. So I brought him back. Had to renegotiate his contract.
I see that.
But I think it's worthwhile.
Well, now, do you ever have a behind the scenes? Because I hope your viewers will know if they see this or not. The entire time I've been here for the last 15 minutes, you've been by my side.
Yeah.
So now that we've started, he's by yours. I don't know if that's by the coincidence or.
He warms up the guests.
Okay.
And that's part of his contract.
He did a good job.
You know, that was not something he normally did.
Okay.
I had a big chat with him before you got here.
Well.
And I said, behave. Otherwise, you know, I have to bring you over to the police station afterwards. But his contract.
Well.
He's got a lot more snacks.
Okay.
In his contract right now. And I won't even say the word.
I bet.
Because he'll just start running over there and be somewhat disruptive. It was really nice for you to come. I appreciate it. And I have a bunch of, questions in case I lose my train of thought there. But I don't think I will. So I wanted to think of something a little different to talk to you about because, we have a lot of folk, as you know, have already spoken to you during the summer when things get a little crazier here, meaning, an extra 100,000 plus people show up on the island, as opposed to what's going on right now.
Yes.
And things are relatively quiet, but to change a little bit of the pace of what people might be expecting on the show today, I wanted to talk about something that is important, and that's safety, not only in our town, but also across the island. Let's face it, people just don't show up here. They're not beamed in here like on Star Trek.
Yes.
They come across the island. We're on the north side. And, people's behaviors while they're driving through, Surf City and North Beach doesn't automatically change when it comes here to Harvey Cedars or from Barnegat Light. It doesn't, as they come through Love Ladies, and all of a sudden they come to Harvey Cedars and something doesn't click and say, okay, I have to behave differently now.
Right.
So how are you and the other chiefs working through that?
Sure. So I'm glad you bring this up first because safety is obviously the most important thing for us. And the one great thing that we have here in LBI and also in Ocean County is all the police chiefs, we get along so well and we work so well together and closely. And the reason why that's important is because, like you just mentioned, everybody comes to LBI, right? Most of the people come for vacation and they come to have a great time. And a lot of Harvey Cedars problems might be the same problems as Long Beach Township, Beach Haven, Surf City, what have you. So, we always try to work together to be able to, drive our points home sometimes together, because if we do it together, sometimes that'll help us. So just because, you're in Harvey Cedars, you might be staying in Beach Haven or North Beach or Barnegat Light. So we try to have a common theme. So with that being said, so safety is extremely important. And, we certainly start that planning process now again for the new season. But just because we have a new summer season doesn't mean that we don't focus on safety now.
So bicycle safety, just I as a resident here. So I went in AI the other day. I use AI for a lot of things, and I guess my opinion means more now because about 2 weeks ago I was referred to as a local Harvey Cedars resident.
Yeah.
I looked my profile up the other day, and I've been promoted to a long-term Harvey Cedars resident.
Congratulations.
So thank you.
Yep.
I feel I have more skin in the game.
Absolutely.
Now. So I, driving for the last 6 years, and I used to vacation here, my family and I, for 25 years, and I've said that numerous times on the show for the other episodes. I just am leery sometimes of even driving. I'll straddle 2 lanes sometimes because young people are on their bicycles, no shoes on their cell phones, riding their bikes, oblivious, no mirrors on the bike, oblivious to the fact that, there are cars zooming by them at, 30, 35 miles an hour. What can we do, or practically, what can we practically do? I know it's very, very difficult, to address that issue. And I don't know if you and your colleagues in different towns have thought about this.
Mm-hmm. So bike safety is huge, and it's one thing that we always, try to hone in on. So a lot of things that we do is the last 2 summer seasons prior to the summer, we've partnered with local county and state agencies such as the New Jersey Traffic Highway and Safety, which we've done press conferences. One was at Birdie's and last year was at the Firehouse. That were publicized on TV and through other media, again, focusing on getting the word out of what bike safety is. And bike safety applies to not only the bicyclists, but the motorists. And here in Harvey Cedars, we have such narrow shoulders in a lot of the spots. Thankfully with the new sidewalks that we have here and that are continuing to grow, certainly will help. But with the laws, where you can only ride in the left-hand lane when you're passing, right? Or if safe, so you have to stay in the right-hand lane. But yet, when you're passing a bicyclist, you have to be so many feet away from the bicyclist. So then now you're back in the other lane. So there's a lot of there's a lot of moving parts to the to the laws and whatnot. But so we always kind of try to start the season up with getting the word out that here's a safety, here are the rules, and here's what we're going to do. So over the summer season, we like to do a lot of high visibility enforcement. And what does that mean? That means that we're not hiding in bushes to try to catch, Fred doing something wrong on his bike. We're out there. We're staged at different intersections over the days and the weeks, and we're in our high visibility traffic vests, and we're stopping the bicyclist because the one big concern that we see a lot is that they don't obey the traffic signal, which they do. So it's a lot of the information, getting that out there as to what the rules are, and trying to instill that in the bicyclists.
Yeah, I'm happy that nobody's keeping an eye on me. That means I can remain beach chic in the summertime and not have to
either that or
overdress.
Either that or you're going so fast we don't see you.
Well, no, never. I'm very strict about that.
Okay.
I'm addressing the audience now because the chief did mention TV, and many of you are aware that the chief actually was on network news. About a week and a half ago,
about that,
maybe
yep.
2 weeks ago, and from network television, he's come on this show. So I don't know what to make of that, but I appreciate that. It's very nice of you. Maybe you want to tell the viewers what you were on television talking about.
Yeah, so thank you. So NBC, Ted Graedman, who I work well with for the last 10 plus years, he wanted to focus on, now we have this cold weather for such a long period of time that the bay started to freeze over. So what does that mean? That means that people could be inclined to venture out in the ice to try to see what that's about. Or if your pet goes out on the ice, how do we deal with that? And so again, information sharing, getting the word out that the ice might look thick, but it's really not. So the main concern is to try to keep people off the ice.
Yeah. How long was the episode that you were?
So the episode in total, I believe, was about maybe 2 to 4 minutes. He also included a water rescue team from Seaside Heights in on that to try to offer different perspective. But something with the support of the mayor and commissioners, we have cameras down at Sunset Park that will allow us to zoom in on the ice to help us keep better eyes on the bay and in Sunset Park to help us with that.
Yeah. I know you have your own Harvey Cedars site on Facebook. Is that in there so that people can see this?
Sure. And if it's not there, so we have a social media coordinator, and she'll get mad at me for mentioning her, but Ceci from our borough, she's done a fantastic job. So she's did put that up there for us, and if not there, you can go to the NBC
website. She's
website.
a hard negotiator too, because I guaranteed her that if you were going to come on the show, you'd get more than 4 minutes.
That's right.
So you're going to get at least 30 minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
That was part of the deal.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So she's very good at her job. So just FYI.
Yes, she is. Thank you.
Yeah. In the first episode, our mayor, John Imperial, was on, and, he's also the police commissioner. I think most people know that, are responsible for safety. And, I made positive comments about your department. At that point, I didn't know that I was going to have you on here, so I just want to make sure that everybody knows that was sincere. But I don't think that I'm the only person here in this town that feels that way. People are very supportive of your team. I've honestly not heard a negative thing about anybody on your team or anything that they've done or not done, et cetera. We talked about enforcement on the first show, so I don't want to bore the viewers talking about enforcement again. You know what I'm saying? It's extremely difficult when you have, 3-4 times as many people here. I'm probably being very conservative here in the summertime because these people the visitors, I should say, that come into, the island, they're driving through Harvey Cedars. They don't necessarily rent here or reside here or anything else. So I imagine it's pretty difficult. And, the message that I want to also communicate is that Harvey Cedars is more fortunate in many, many ways because here on the north side we have less attractions, less things to attract people to, especially younger people, as opposed to the southern side of the island, which, all you have to do is pick up the local paper in the summertime to read about what goes on there.
Yes.
Are there lessons learned to help with those issues? Let's talk about this coming summer. I mean, when you kind of go back and you review what took place in the previous summers, are there lessons learned that can mitigate issues this year?
Yeah. So I mean, we always learn in what we did and how we can do better the next time. So we always have called after action reports, whether it's in a particular event or actually an entire summer season. So sometimes it includes manpower and allocating our resources to certain places, depending on, a certain business might have a pop-up event once a week, right? So last year we might have taken our resources and put them here, but maybe that didn't work so well. So this summer, maybe let's collaborate with the local businesses and see what their ideas are, so I can and put my people and the resources in the right spot, just as an example. So yes, that's something that we always review, because there's sometimes that we'll look at things at the end, my sergeants and I, who they both do a fantastic job for us, and we'll say, what, that chief, that worked out well, but I think we should maybe have 2 people at this location, so that's where that kind of stuff comes.
Now you have a number of new police officers on your force. We don't have to mention their names, but how many new folks do you have over the course of the last year or so? 2, 3?
So over the last couple, we had about, I would say 2 over the last year or so. And we take our recruiting, our hiring very seriously. Course of the recruiting process, we can teach you how to be a good police officer, right? But when we hire you, we look at if you're a good person, right? It's very difficult to teach someone how to be a good person. And out of doing that, the last, many rounds of hiring, we have some great people who are also great police officers. So we take that very seriously. So we're very fortunate in all of our officers, because they all are very, very good people, which is what I want to see.
So that's part of the orientation. What's a typical? I mean, I guess orientation would be different if you hired people right before the summer versus February. You're lucky to be able to get like a sandwich anywhere here now, right? So the orientation would be totally, because everything's closed, right?
Right.
And that's February, right? What's your typical orientation like for new officers?
So getting an officer from point A to point B, being out on the road, could take close to a year, depending on their level of experience. If someone doesn't have any experience, they'd have to go through, that might be 2 or 3 months of a hiring process, background check, and then you have to send them to a 6-month academy.
Yeah.
And then once they graduate the academy, then they have a 12-week FTO, a field training program that they have to go through, where they're not really on their own yet. They're with other seasonal or seasoned officers. So depending on the level of experience coming into it, it could be upwards of a year, which is a big undertaking for an agency like ours.
But you have a relatively high retention, don't you?
We do. If an officer leaves our department, typically it's for they want to go to something bigger, like the state police. Right. But because Harvey Cedars in the summertime we're busy, and then January, February, it's not as busy. But so sometimes in the wintertime, we'll focus on the trainings. Officers get their time off. But as a small agency like ours, we also wear a lot of hats because we want every officer to have a skin in the game. They want to have a piece of the department. So if you have a large department, you might be assigned to just one thing. Well, here, you might be assigned to 2 or 3 or 4 things, which gives that officer a little bit more, motivation. More things to focus on, which has worked well.
Yeah. Some of these things may seem, some of these questions, and please don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. Nobody ever asks me any questions. I'd love getting questions, and sometimes people begin by asking if they can ask me a question. Just ask me anything you want. But as a newcomer here, meaning my wife and I lived here for 6 years, but we vacationed here for 25 years. And I ask these questions about safety because, quite honestly, when we vacationed here, and we had young kids at the time, they were all adults now. I didn't really pay attention. I'm a law-abiding person, so if the sign says this is the speed limit, I go over maybe a couple of miles per hour, right? But other than that, one could say I'm pretty rigid when it comes to obeying the rules, and that is part of my upbringing, in the 60s. When I went to grade school, the teacher would tell us, if you ever get lost, if you ever have a problem, you can always go to a police officer. Well, actually, back then it was, policeman, but police officer. Okay. Firefighters, which were called firemen back then. Okay. Well, we've learned a lot in my formulative years. That's what people refer to those professions as. Today, in our society, things are a little different, but I know that here in Harvey Cedars, a few years ago, a little bit of, some domestic changes in our society here as a country. But here in Harvey Cedars, people couldn't get signage fast enough that said, we support Harvey Cedars Police. You couldn't get that. It was impossible. I actually asked, where do I get one of these things? I forget what the answer was.
Sure.
There were few and far between, but anybody who had one proudly posted that signage in this town.
Yeah.
And I get we're a small town, but regardless, even if you're a small town, what do you attest that to?
So we are so fortunate to work in Harvey Cedars, to be here in Harvey Cedars, to have the residents here support us so well. And that starts from the top. That starts with Mayor Imperial and our commissioners, and even the prior governing body for the last, for how many years. One thing that I'm sure you've been at, every year we have an award ceremony for our police department, where we give out various awards. And the one thing that I always say, and I always say this, and I always will continue to say it, is I thank the governing body for their continued support. And that means the most, because they allow us to be able to do the job that we do today, and which is to be able to provide the quality of service that our residents deserve. And then it's clear that I guess we're doing a pretty good job, because then we see these signs pop up, and I couldn't tell you how much that meant to all the officers, just by a simple gesture as having a sign that we support you. Because yes, sometimes the climate as a police officer is very challenging, and we don't take that lightly. But the one thing that we've certainly done for many years is with the community policing, and our thing is here in Harvey Cedars is that if Fred calls the police, he knows that he's either going to get Sergeant Steve, Sergeant Kevin, Officer Chris, or whatever the case is. You're not going to get badge number 1, 2, 3. So we like to keep that connection with the police department and the residents.
I'm joking a little bit here, only because some folks may have seen some letters that I've written to the paper here regarding the mail delivery, and our local mail folks are fantastic here. Okay, and every resident here in town feels the same way as I do. So I want to make sure that what I'm saying is not in any way misunderstood. We think a lot of our postal workers here, and UPS and FedEx people. But I did make a comment, rain, sleet, snow, the mail must be delivered, something along those lines. And that's not always the case. But I will tell you, the signage, there are people that still have that Harvey Cedars Support Your Police. Rain, sleet, snow, for years,
Yes.
that is still somewhere on their property. Not as many as there were. But that is quite a testimonial, I think, to the police. And if anything, police, the folks living here, and you have, I don't know exactly how many officers you have, we can talk about that. But if it were up to the folks that live here all year round, they would want even more police officers here.
Yeah, well, and thank you. Yes, I mean, and if you ask any chief what around the state, around the country, what they want more of, and it's police officers, right? Because sometimes we're asked to do more with less. But given the fact that we have such a support, it not only do we give that great service to the community, but the officers enjoy it. We've made it a place where officers enjoy coming to work, and they enjoy interacting with the people, regardless of what it is, whether it's a first aid call where it's not a great day for that person, or it's at a community event where we're just talking about whatever the case is.
Yeah, I think the feeling is, we have also older folk here, including myself, that live here.
You said that, by the way, not me.
Oh, no, I know. You would never say that.
No.
But, I look in the mirror and I see what I see. It's not that the police here have an eye on you. They're looking out for you. And that's the reason for the earlier comment that I made. That is what people sincerely feel here.
Yeah.
And, your police officers, stop, have conversation with folks here,
Yep.
Especially at this time of the year. So that's tremendous. At borough meetings, you and our mayor will talk about success rates of different things, different training that our police officers go through here, marksmanship scores, et cetera, even our, the beach patrol and such. And, we hold those records in high esteem here in the town. And it's a testimony to you as a relatively young chief of police, which is a testimony to your skills.
Thank you.
And your career opportunities. I'm sure you're thinking of the folks on the force. Strategically, how can you? What's your strategy for trying to develop them? Not because we want any of them to leave, but because as an employee, in this case a police officer, how can we help, and you're probably doing it, increase their skill set, not improving upon that which they already have? Use an example, marksmanship scores, but other things, things that we in this town don't require, like cybercrime. I mean, some of the folks watching this, many of them said, YouTube, where's that? So in a small way, this show has helped with that also.
Yep,
How do I subscribe to this show? Okay, so everybody, when you're watching this, because with the chief here, this is going to be a big hit. Make sure you subscribe to the show so that you're aware of when a new episode comes. But so we don't really have a need we don't have cybercrime here, or to the best of my knowledge, we don't have cybercrime here. Screwing up on an Amazon order doesn't constitute cybercrime. But how do you keep your police force up to date with things like that when you don't really have the practical applications here? Sure.
So, training is one of the utmost importance for any police officer. So it's kind of twofold. One, again, going back to our conversation briefly about, giving the officer skin in the game, having a piece of that pie of the department. But also two is, every officer has their niche, right? So Detective Ben Mrozinski, he's our traffic safety officer. So he has gone through some extensive training regarding traffic safety. There's other, like you talk about Sergeant Frazee or Detective McCorkle as far as firearms. So each officer kind of has their different niche. And we send them to those trainings because you might not think we have cybercrime issues here, but we do have some cybercrime issues that we do have. So just because you think, oh, we're in Harvey Cedars, nothing will ever happen. That's not the case. And your police department needs to be prepared to handle any call for service that comes in. So it's very prudent of myself and our training supervisor to send these officers to the trainings, so that way when that victim comes to the door and say, this is just what happened to me, can you help me? We can say, yes, we can. And we have the officers that are adequately trained to do that.
So you make a very good point, because if I were a crook, I would say, well, where can I start up my new franchise? And you would look at safe havens to do that, obviously. Which leads me to a conversation about how can you instruct our population here? Because sometimes we take for granted, to your point, what a safe town this is. There isn't any place in this town, I laugh because I'm thinking of just about any other place that at a certain hour of the night, my spider sense would be alerted. There isn't any place on this island that I would hesitate to go to on this island. And in Harvey Cedars and on the north side, and no insult to folks on the south side, not at all. There's just more stuff going on there. But on this north side and in Harvey Cedars, there is not a single place I would go out at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, totally unconcerned about my safety, my welfare. If I, even without my medical alert, right? I've slipped and I've fallen and I can't get up. Somebody will come in 15 to 17 seconds without that, okay?
Of course.
How can we educate our residents here not to take those things for granted? In other words, precautionary things that, especially in the summertime, that they should be thinking about.
Sure. So we go back to the old saying, if you see something, say something.
Yeah.
Right? There's been so many times that we've taken a report of theft or burglary, and you start interviewing other people, and the next door neighbor might say, oh, well, I heard something last night, but I don't want to bother you. So we always tell people, bother us. That's our job. So if you see something that doesn't look right, please call us. If you hear something that doesn't sound right, please call us. And especially in the middle of the night, granted, Harvey Cedars, LBI, yes, it's a very safe community. But we do have crime. A few years ago when the high-end motor vehicle thefts were a big thing, and people weren't locking their cars as they should, and then that would bring in bad people who are the ones taking these cars. So we lock your cars. And I finally have convinced my dad that because he lives here in Harvey Cedars, that you have to lock your doors, right? And not for any particular intel, as they say in the police world, but it's just a good common practice these days, not to keep your key in the outside shower like we used to. Just kind of just bring us some more common sense, and yes, we're in a safe place, but just take those easy precautions to help keep yourself safe.
So this is a true story because I validated, and it's also a funny story and with a happy ending. So my wife and I purchased here in December, a week or so before the Christmas holidays, 2019, and we have another home in Burlington County. And so after the closing, we went back to our other home. We did not come here. Okay. And the real estate agent, who was on one half of the deal, representing the sellers of this property, knew us, and she's a neighbor of ours, lovely person. And so she had told people that, the house had been sold and that we were going to be here at the end of 2019. Well, like I said, we didn't come back here. So New Year's Eve, we always have a party. My wife and I have had it for over 25 years at our other residence. We decided to have it here on New Year's Eve. So a bunch of cars were parked legally, and this is an open air place. Everybody sees what's going on, and we had, more than a handful of people here. The local folks here in the neighborhood, the neighbors across the street from me and such, within 200 feet of here, thought it was a home invasion, and they were going to call your department. But luckily, before they did that, They all conversed. This wasn't like one person. They had like a little group meeting. And before they did, fortunately, they got the real estate agent. And she said, no, those are the Bercaris. Or else the house would have been surrounded, and I just envision one of your police officers with a microphone out there saying, put your hands above your head and walk out. So, yeah, everybody here also, everybody's a deputy, is a civilian patrol officer
absolutely.
here.
Absolutely.
Nothing can happen here.
That's right.
And so you have a backup here now that you need it.
Nope. Hey,
your folks are very, very competent. So we're almost coming to an end here, Chief. How is there a message or something? I mean, maybe that you didn't get an opportunity to deliver on network news, okay? Because you're talking to New Yorkers and Philadelphians and so forth, but this is going to primarily be focused on this island and obviously Harvey Cedars. Is there some message or anything that you'd like to end the show with?
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, first off, I know you like a little humor.
Yes, a lot of humor, actually.
And you kind of touched on your age. I will say I'm impressed with the whole podcasting thing. And that's very, it's kind of in right now, and this is my first podcast ever.
Oh.
So all the other TV and radio stuff I've done.
You hear that, NBC?
This is the first podcast I've done, so thank you. But the one message that I want everybody to know that our police department, all the men and the women in the police department are fantastic. They work very, very hard. But don't forget about our public works. Don't forget about our beach patrol and all the ladies and the staff in the office. Because throughout the whole year, leading up into the summer, they work day in and day out to make sure that not only the full-time residents are taken care of or their concerns are answered, but come summertime, when a lot more people come, they come to the place that they love. So it's really just one big team effort, regardless of what department that we're in, and we all love it, and we all love what we do. Well,
that's a great way to end the show, and that is the comment that you just made is very reflective of your force, how your officers conduct themselves, how helpful they are, and in these troubling times, and they're always troubling times, right? And I was going to show my age. Troubling times in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s. Things are highlighted a little bit more because of instant information on your phone. Back when I was growing up, you had to wait for tomorrow's newspaper,
right,
or nightly news.
Sure.
Okay, but as a testimony, the folks, I would say, on this entire island feel so differently about the police here. And what I have tried to say to folks also, and things are very different in this country, Harvey Cedars is sort of like, and I remind people, this is where people come to vacation, and you're fortunate enough to live here. And that fortunate component of it has to do with, to your point, elected officials here who do this along with many other things that they're responsible for. Our elected officials, a little different, but on this island, most of the elected officials have other businesses that they're involved with. Our firefighters are tremendous here. The amount of times this alarm goes off, especially in the summer months.
Absolutely.
Tremendous. And, the backup that your police officers also provide, they go to every one of those situations as well.
Yes.
Okay, because you don't know what the circumstances are.
That's right.
Somebody's called in for help.
Yep.
You don't know what the circumstances are. So I personally feel very, very fortunate to be living here. And I just say to the folks watching this, don't ever take that for granted, because there are folks that generationally have lived here. And when I first moved here, the first couple of years, I couldn't believe I was here. I couldn't believe this, that I'm actually here.
Yep.
I didn't pinch myself, but, I don't know.
Sure.
I mean, I did say, wow, I can't believe I'm here.
Yep.
And what happens is, now, after being here for 6 years, I sometimes take it for granted. And one of the reasons I'm also doing this podcast is to remind folks of the community that they live in, the island and Ocean County and Manahawkin. And my goal is to really bring folks in here from different walks of life. But we all share something that is very, very unique and that unfortunately a lot of folks don't experience in their lives. So I'm always thankful for that. And again, I really appreciate you coming and making the time available. And you know, if folks have any questions regarding this, there's always a short description prior to the show where you can see the summary, and my contact information is on there. A lot of times people may not want to actually put a comment down on YouTube for the whole world literally to see, but you might want to send something to me, just giving me a thumbs up or a thumbs down personally, or maybe some things that you would have liked for me in a 30-minute interview to ask the chief. And if there's a lot of that, I mean, certainly I can get back to you, or we could have the chief come back at some other time.
Absolutely.
But till then, thanks very, very much.
Thank you.
I appreciated
great.
this. And
My honor.
This is certainly going to boost my ratings up also. So thank
I
you.
hope so.
Especially after the guy was on a network station. Thanks very much.
Excellent.
See you next time.
Thank you.